CTN was recently recognized with 5 awards from the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors annual conference. 2 of those were first place awards, including one for a promo featuring puppets.
And the award of excellence goes to Sports Night Promo, City of Coon Rapids, Minnesota.
After quarantine, everyone's bound to look a little different. Some people gained a little weight, others lost some. Some had longer hair or new beard. With Joe and Howie, it was a little different. Don't get me wrong, they acted like the same old Joe and Howie. What they came back with, a different energy. But something was off.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro.
Our other first place award was for CTN coverage of the St. Thomas at Coon Rapids prep football game in the live sport events category. We also received 2 awards of distinction, which are for second or third place, including CTN original programming in the overall station excellence category, and Sports Night won an award of distinction in the sports programming category. Finally, the 5th station award was an honorable mention for our CTN graphics composite entry in the visual arts category.
The cost of a $30 bar compared to a $12.
Coon Rapids firefighters promoted fall prevention Thursday. The fire department was among 50 vendors who turned out for the Senior Info Fair at the Civic Center.
We're still local in Coon Rapids.
The event brought together lots of senior-related products and services for those people 55 and older. Topics ranged from travel, housing, and health.
I've written 2 books about caregiving.
Nancy Poland, a Coon Rapids resident and author, talked about caregiving and how people can avoid potential caregiving missteps.
And in both of my books, I have tips for caregivers, I have ideas. In this book, I have checklists. There's questions that can be used in group settings. And so my heart is just really to help caregivers and help people.
Vendors got their booths for free and instead offered up prizes in a drawing which people could win. The 3-hour event was held instead of the usual all-day senior safety camp.
Well, there are lots of jobs out there.
The Anoka County Job Training Center was on hand to promote work opportunities for seniors.
We have a great senior employment program through Anoka County. They can apply, work 20 hours a week within the community in a nonprofit or government agent setting, make a little extra money, supplement their income.
We're more to support services kind of thing.
The Senior Info Fair was sponsored by the Coon Rapids Police and Fire, along with Senior Services.
Back in 2017, the Minnesota State Legislature updated zoning regulations for the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area, which runs through the Twin Cities. Those rules must now be adopted by local cities, including Coon Rapids.
Because Minnesota is the headwaters of the Mississippi, they feel it's very important for us to preserve the quality of this water, and they do that through controlling the construction that goes along and any work that goes along the shorelines, the bluff lines along the Mississippi River.
The Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area, which was designated as such back in 1976, stretches for 72 miles from the cities of Ramsey and Dayton down to Hastings and Ravenna Township. It includes 54,000 acres of land along both sides of the river.
Most of these rules relate to those property owners that live along the river or own property along the river. Most of it is private residential homes. There are some public institutions, for example, Anoka Ramsey Community College is along the river. They're also subject to these rules.
The 3 big changes include new design standards for acceptable river access, including paths, stairways, water-oriented structures, patios, and decks. Specific definitions have been developed for things like bluff line and bluff impact zone. And finally, permits are now required for certain land alterations and vegetation removal.
Previously, we didn't really have a permitting requirement if someone was going to do some fairly significant work along the river, whether that's vegetation removal, putting in riprap, a retaining wall. We didn't really have a process for doing that. So this will now require a permit if you're going to be doing any of that kind of work.
The DNR has created a model ordinance to help guide cities as they update their own ordinances to align with the new regulations.
Anything that was legally established prior to the updated ordinance will be considered a legal nonconformity if it doesn't meet the new standards. And so there are protections under state law for legal nonconformities.
This winter, the Coon Rapids Planning Commission will hold a public hearing for comments on the updated rules. Then it's on to the City Council for approval in the spring.
So the City Council, we need to adopt them and make them part of the city ordinances because we'll be responsible for the permitting and for the enforcement.
A lot of the changes, I think, are really related to permitting, clarification about rules. Things like structure setbacks are not changing. And so I think it's important for people to understand that this is really updating and modernizing our ordinance. But I don't know that there's drastic changes that we're making to it.
In the end, everyone along the 72-mile corridor hopes the changes will help protect a gem so it's around for generations to come.
I encourage folks to get involved if they're interested in this, participate in the open houses, participate in the public hearing, and just make sure that it's doing what we need it to do.
If you'd like to learn more about the changes, a virtual webinar will take place Wednesday, October 13th at 6:30 p.m. Pre-registration is required. For more information, log on to the city's website, coonrapidsmn.gov.
Thank you for thinking of me to receive this honor.
Last Friday, Coon Rapids High School inducted its third Hall of Fame class, beginning with track and field standout from the mid-1990s, Hall of Fame inductee Katie Bestol-Lackinen.
For anyone to even have remembered my name way back then is very humbling.
Gorham led CRHS to 3 runner-up finishes at the True Team State Meet and was named the State Girls Track and Field Coach of the Year, 1994.
Roger Gorham was a teacher and coach for 36 years at Coon Rapids High School. In 2011, Gorham was inducted into the Minnesota Track and Field Hall of Fame.
It is a true honor.
He coached Katie the year the girls' team won the 1996 Class AA State Championship and joined Bestol-Lackinen into the 2021 Hall of Fame.
Proud to be here tonight, but I'm so humble because I know the only reason I'm here is I was surrounded by a bunch of people that were really good at what they did. Competition was good, winning was better.
Mark was the captain of the baseball team in 1975, where he earned all conference and all state honors.
The last inductee for the class of 2021 was Mark Hodgson, who lettered 7 times in football, basketball, and baseball.
It's a pleasure and an honor, and I'm humbled by being elected to the Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank my coaches. Without my coaches, I would not be here tonight.
Hodgson got the nod from his former football coach, Ron Scott, who entered the Coon Rapids High School Hall of Fame in 2019.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Katie Bestol-Lackinen.
Before the Cardinals' football game against Rogers, the Hall of Fame inductees were recognized on the field.
Oh, it's very humbling and very honored to be selected. Had some very good times here, some very good teammates.
Anytime you get recognized by the people you worked with and they think you did a good job, it's the ultimate compliment.
Sports is really just about lessons learned, right, from success and failure, and Roger did that beautifully. You know, we did things well, we made mistakes, and he always helped us pick ourselves up and get better.
To nominate someone for the Coon Rapids High School Hall of Fame, go to ahschools.us/CRHS and click on the Activities tab.
We're here at Champlain Park High School, and we're live on YouTube and eventually on Facebook, talking with our community about our operating levy that will be on the ballot this November.
The Anoka School Superintendent, along with his staff, are trying to make sure the community is informed about 3 levy questions that are on the ballot this fall. Question 1 would renew the $34.5 million operating levy, last renewed by voters in 2012. Funding is used to maintain programs and services, along with keeping class sizes down. Question 2 renews a $4.5 million capital levy for technology, first approved by voters back in 2011. Both question 1 and 2 would not increase taxes for residents.
It's an extension, so it's a tax increase in the fact that you're paying the same thing for a longer period of time, but year over year it's the same rate.
Question 3 does involve a tax increase of about $10 a month for 10 years for a $250,000 home. The operating levy would be used to extend mental health and social-emotional support for students, including academic support for underachieving students. The current federal funding for that runs out in 2022.
On a $250,000 home, it's a $10 increase. We sampled what would be realistic on a $250,000 home, and that was what our community said.
2 more informational meetings are coming up, September 28th at Andover High School and September 29th at Coon Rapids High School. The presentation starts at 6:30 p.m. Early voting is underway now at the Anoka County Government Center. You can also vote early by mail or at the polls on Election Day, which is Tuesday, November 2nd. For more information on the levy questions, tax impact, and frequently asked questions, log on to ahschools.us.
Get informed. Go to the webpage, look at this information, and vote.
Three, two.
All right.
Cool. A ribbon cutting took place off of Olive Street to mark the completion of the Middle Sand Creek corridor restoration. The Coon Creek Watershed District hosted the event, which celebrated a number of partner agencies involved in the 3-year project. Some major funding grants made it possible, including money from the Minnesota Clean Water Fund. Some of the key players included the City of Coon Rapids, the DNR, and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. The restoration involved the construction of meanders, which followed the old maps and floodplains for the district prior to 1904.
It is beautiful. We used natural vegetation, and so the trail remains shaded. But there is more to see when water returns, and there are more birds as well as other wildlife present in the area. So 3 major benefits: recreation, water quality, and flood control.
This marks a new chapter for Sand Creek on its journey to meet federal water quality standards. The plan is to eventually get Sand Creek off of the Federal Impaired Waters list.
Here's a quick recap of the Tuesday, September 21st City Council meeting. The preliminary tax levy for 2022 has been set. On Tuesday night, the City Council set the levy for next year just shy of $31 million, which is about a 4.5% increase over this year's levy. Part of that increase is due to 2 new positions being added to the budget in 2022, 1 additional police officer and 1 additional firefighter. The budget also includes around $13 million to build a new Fire Station 3. Preliminary property tax statements will be sent out by Anoka County in November. The final city budget and tax levy for next year will be approved in December. The Coon Rapids Police Department is getting a grant for the coming year to enforce DWI laws. The $125,000 grant comes from the Minnesota Office of Traffic Safety. The money must be used to enforce laws prohibiting driving while impaired. The department received a similar grant for 2021.
I, Tyler Soini,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution
of the United States.
The police department is welcoming another officer to the family. Mayor Jerry Cook administered the oath of office to Tyler Soini Tuesday night. Soini grew up in Inver Grove Heights and previously worked as a corrections officer. His wife pinned on his permanent badge, which is number 179. Last but certainly not least, some bittersweet news from Councilmember Wade Demmer. Demmer is moving out of Ward 3 and must resign his seat on the City Council. But the good news, he's staying in Coon Rapids.
I'd like to think I did my best to represent the people of Ward 3 and the city of Coon Rapids. And it's hard to leave early. I've done almost 7 years, so I would have had 1 more year left. I did not plan on running again because that always felt like it could be somebody else's turn. I guess it's someone else's turn a little sooner.
Wade thanked his constituents, city staff, and his family and promised to stay involved in the city in a non-elected capacity. As a parting gift, Wade received a Demer Lane street sign, which he posed with, along with his wife and 3 kids, at the end of his last city council meeting. He will certainly be missed. And that's a recap from the September 21st city council meeting. As always, you can find the full meetings on cable or the CTN YouTube channel.
Welcome everybody to the Coon Rapids 6th Annual Love My Pet Fair.
Gorgeous weather greeted visitors to this year's Coon Rapids Love My Pet Fair at Riverview Park.
Oh, yeah.
Those visitors included humans, dogs, and yes, even a bird.
So this here is Beans. She is a green cheek fancy conure.
We were really sad, but I'm glad it's back.
Katie Raker and her dog Sadie haven't missed a pet fair, but were bummed about the cancellation last year due to the pandemic. However, they didn't miss a beat Saturday, winning both the costume contest and the pet tricks contest.
So Sadie loves to do tricks, so we thought, well, we'll try it. We'll go up on the stage and try. And she actually won, so that was a bonus.
In addition to fun contests, games, and even a pet photo booth, local vendors set up shop, showcasing their products and services. Pet owners can also get their 4-legged friends vaccinated and licensed.
Coon Rapids is really committed to this event. It has been a great growth that has happened over the 6 years that we've held it, and we've heard from the community that they really appreciate it and enjoy it.
There's a lot of dogs here and all ages of dogs, and it's kind of fun to watch and all the dogs interact.
So if you missed it this year, as they say, there's always next year. And while we can't guarantee picture-perfect weather a year from now, we can promise a good time for both pet lovers and their furry friends.
I'd absolutely recommend it. It's a lot of fun. That's why we come back every year.
Drops in my eye, country road.
On the Santa Root family farm up in Ham Lake,
Well, welcome.
it was a September pig roast and outdoor picnic where volunteers, guests, and dignitaries gathered to mark a milestone.
Well, welcome to everybody that's here today on a very, very special occasion as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Bikes for Kids.
God bless you all for what you're doing. There's 70 of you passing out 12 or 1,400 bikes and a couple thousand to Africa to help with their agriculture. I mean, way to go.
Over the past decade, the organization has repaired and delivered thousands of bikes to kids and people in need.
We are the Robert and Wilma Burbuck Bike Foundation.
That was Al Santarud speaking back in 2017, one of the founders of Bikes for Kids who provided the facilities for the operation.
It was several weeks before his passing, hardly anybody there.
The celebration, however, was bittersweet for the family and friends of Al. He died this past June at the age of 97.
For somebody who, could have just taken the easy retirement route, it gave him so much life.
Thank you. Here you are, Betty. Yeah.
In addition to Al's wife Betty and family, the guest list included over 60 volunteers who have helped reclaim used bikes, repair them, and get them in the hands of those in need.
It seems like we've kind of hit a plateau here at about 1,000 to 1,100 bikes. And that's not such a bad thing. I mean, you can only do just so much with the amount of facilities that you have.
Al Santarud and Bob Burbach and others were involved in loading up 2.5 containers of bikes to ship over to the Philippines.
Longtime volunteer Leroy Kerwick talked about the early days.
Al Santarud, who had a tremendous heart for kids and people in need. It was in his DNA.
Stories on how Al Santarud brought together dedicated men and women into Bikes for Kids.
And he said, "Say, I think you'd be interested in doing this." And so that's how I ended up coming here.
Locally owned bike shop Trailhead Cycling's Pam and Larry Saylor have been early partners with Bikes for Kids.
I know in that first batch we helped train some of their people a little bit to work on bikes.
The Santarud family says Bikes for Kids will continue to operate here on the family farm for some years to come.
I'm sure there's a little bit of regret that he couldn't be here, but I think he's just happy that it continues on with so many people.
For more information on Bikes for Kids, log on to their website, bikesforkids.org.
Here's your City Council recap for Thursday, September 9th. A new medical office building will be coming to the southern end of town. At Tuesday night's City Council meeting, JHM Properties received site plan approval for a 2-story, 12,000 square foot medical office building off Springbrook Drive and Hawley Street, right next to the Quick Trip. The 1.9 acre site is currently undeveloped. The building will house a kidney dialysis clinic. We may have turned the calendar on summer, but water restrictions remain in place for the time being. The water emergency enacted June 18th forbids watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. daily. Also, the odd-even ban, which normally ends August 31st, has been extended indefinitely. That means homeowners with addresses ending in odd numbers can water on odd-numbered days, and even-numbered homes water on even-numbered days, but again, not between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. The City Council has introduced some updates to the solar ordinance. The changes will allow for the commercial generation of solar energy by eliminating a requirement that all solar energy systems only provide on-site power. Also, a new category of solar energy systems is being added, which will allow for community solar gardens. In 2020 alone, 16 solar systems were installed in Coon Rapids. And that's your City Council recap for Thursday, September 9th. As always, you can find the full meetings on cable or the CTN YouTube channel.
Yasser is our new member, and I think I'll give Yasser the opportunity to introduce himself. And Yasser, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
In an effort to improve community relations between the police and the public, Coon Rapids Captain John Stanky organized the city's first Multicultural Advisory Committee.
The goal of the Multicultural Advisory Committee, or the MAC, is to promote cultural awareness and enhance communication and understanding between the police department and diverse cultures within our community.
Part of state law says that we have to get community feedback on our policy.
The idea for this group came from other police departments who've successfully used the advisory committee model. Coon Rapids has 16 community members and 6 from the police department.
We're trying to keep the numbers low because we want everybody to have a voice and have a chance to speak at each meeting.
I bring the perspective of a person that had to navigate whiteness.
Robert Murray works as an assistant principal at Coon Rapids High School. He joined the MAC last month and says it's important for the police to hear from people of all races and creeds living in the community.
I think that I can bring a different perspective for a person as a person of color, as a male, and as a person with a unique learning style on how the police can better connect with the community.
And I see him surrounded by cops with their guns out.
In a case of mistaken identity, Rebecca Anderson Fly recalled the horrific encounter between her biracial son and Minneapolis police.
I ran out of the house, this is my youngest, and I'm like screaming at them like, what are you doing to my baby?
Coon Rapids Police hope to build more empathy with the community through the advisory committee's monthly meetings.
Because there are some things that just don't make sense anymore.
The police department hopes to build more community trust through the advisory committee's monthly meetings.
This is a new endeavor, and it's already taken legs and grown, and it's going in places where we had never envisioned a year ago when we first had the idea of the concept.
Ready? Here we go. Louder, sharper, 3 times. Yeah, let's give it up for that team. That was good.
The freshmen at Coon Rapids High School aren't the only new faces in the building this fall. Cardinal Nation has a new leader, Principal John Pena.
Beginning of the school year has been great. You know, the staff here have been awesome.
Pena, along with the freshmen, got a taste of the new school year earlier this week.
We had a freshman orientation on Monday, and we had a group of staff that put on a great orientation for the kids. We had them all here pretty much. And that was the first time that I've seen the school, you know, filled with kiddos, right? And they just had a blast.
Pena, who grew up in New York and moved to Minneapolis as a child, is no stranger to the Anoka-Hennepin School District. It's where he started his journey in school administration following years of teaching. He spent the last decade as an assistant principal at Anoka Middle School for the Arts.
My theme, my philosophy is, you know, every kid should be loved, cared for, supported, and prepared for whatever they want to do in life. And the more connected they are to our system, I think the more likely they're going to be to succeed.
The married father of 2 knows he's the captain of the team, but the school ship is not his alone.
I always talk about, people say, you're building this, that, the other. It's not my building. I'm a steward of the building, that's it. The building belongs to the community, to the families, to the students.
Much of the renovation work at Coon Rapids High School is now complete, including a new activities entrance and a new school store. Peña hopes school spirit will be strong this year and that families will join him and his team on the educational journey.
We want our families engaged and involved, and so I challenge all our families to, come on up, visit your space. If something's going on at home with your kiddos, give us a call, let us know. We don't know what we don't know, and we need you to help us support your kids.
The city has long sought a full access interchange onto 610 within the boundaries of Coon Rapids.
Dozens of residents turned out Tuesday night to learn more about the proposed project to create a full interchange at Highway 610 and East River Road. Design plans have been narrowed down to the 3 most feasible options: to add an off-ramp at East River Road for traffic on westbound 610 and an on-ramp for drivers at East River Road who want to head east on 610 towards Blaine.
It's important to get the public's feedback on the different alternatives so that we can bring that back as we look at the design details and the different costs and the issues and the components of what it would take to choose a recommended alternative.
This is the 4th open house for the project. Another one will likely take place once a design is chosen to get more feedback about specific impacts to surrounding businesses and homes and traffic concerns. Funding still needs to be secured, so the project is still several years away from becoming reality.